Fuzzy, I want to get into Obsidian's Avowed. This got a delay. This was supposed to release this year, and it got delayed, and I think ultimately it was the right move. When you look at when it was going to be released, it was going up against Indiana Jones, Stalker 2, and Flight Sim. 3 big games in their own rights. Where does this game have time to breathe? Where could it have done numbers? Where could have people had time to enjoy it when there are so many other games? You got to think about this. They're partner games as well. It's not just Xbox first party. You're talking about so many other games. I mean, Dragon Age. Dragon Age is probably going to be now again, depending on whether you find that there's controversy. I personally don't, but that's probably going to be RPG of the year. Now, maybe it doesn't get the nod because the DLCs are now part of the Game Awards, and maybe Elden Ring, the DLC that gets the nod because that is a phenomenal piece of content. And you know what? It should be recognized. It should be in its own category. Personally, but that is a horse of another color, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday. But we got some new screenshots of Obsidian's Avowed. One of the things that happened last week, among many things that happened good for Xbox, you had the deep dive into Indiana Jones. You had a lot of really cool things happen for Xbox.
Yeah.
Well, we learned that there's a $30 upgrade that has become standard fare with Xbox first party. It happened with Call of Duty. It happened with Starfield. It's now happening with Obsidian's Avowed. This makes sense. This makes sense because what it does is it recoups the money that's being lost by people that are going to play it in the service. And the one thing that we've learned about consumerism, I think it's very safe to say, without being a branded an expert in economics, is as a consumer, if you are presented something quote unquote for free, because most people when they talk about Game Pass, like, I'm getting in my service free, even though they're paying $20 a month. That's the mentality, and they're not wrong for that. They are more inclined, like, oh, wait a second, there's a $30 upgrade. I play 5 days early, and I'm getting this stuff $30 because I'm getting it for free. Call of Duty, right? Like I had no idea I was going to be more infatuated with the multiplayer than the single player, right? But I dropped my $30 down the second it went live. I'm like, well, it's in the freaking service. Why not? I'll get the Vault Edition. And it wound up being a phenomenal investment, right? Like I'm more happy than ever. Same thing with Starfield. Like, I mean, I got a chance to review it, so I got the copy early. I got the deluxe edition, but if I would have just been playing it through my service, I would have gladly spent the $30.
Yeah.
Right. That's just standard fare. So, more interesting reveals is the fact that this is not just going to be available on Steam and on Xbox. It's also going to be an Activision service, which that's freaking pretty crazy because a lot of people look. I don't tend to understand the mentality of launching, of playing games through a launcher. I don't play on PC, but the people, especially the PC crowd, very loyal to their launchers. And the fact that, some people will play Steam because Steam is the best place to play. That's what they're saying. I couldn't tell you because I don't play on PC, right? But on the Activision launcher, a lot of people play there. Yeah. And a lot of people like playing there and they don't want to launch on anything else. And the fact that this is now going to be a part of that is a big deal. This is a new move. It's a genius move, in my opinion. But again, every time I see Avowed in one way or another, Fuzzy, I'm like, this is going to be a phenomenal Obsidian joint. And I can't wait. Let's get your thoughts, man.
I'm also looking forward to it. Now, the key thing with the $30 upgrades, they've been doing this for a while now, and it's worked out to, at least in my standpoint, it's worked out to my favor as far as with Starfield. I love the art book as far as that you get where you can see some of the concept work. You got like an extra skin for some of the weapons as well as for the spacesuit. And there were other than like the early day access, there were a few other perks that I can't remember right now, but it also gave you the first DLC, which was, Shattered Space. So I love this concept of what they're doing. I know some people don't like necessarily having to pay extra to play early, but when you get like the extra cars in like a Forza Horizon 5, like with the car pass, you get early access, you get, usually the DLC that's planned or the announced DLC that's planned already included in that price. I think it's well worth it. Avowed, I believe it's doing like some customization for your companion characters, as well as I don't know if they have like a DLC thing announced just yet, but I know you get the early access. So it's something that I'm more than likely going to wind up doing anyway. When it comes to Indiana Jones, I'm doing the upgrade. Although I have a gut feeling shortly after the holiday or maybe during the holiday, if they do a sale on the actual price of the game, I'll wind up picking it up that way. So I'll pay the full $30 for the upgrade and then, catch the balance for a little bit less than what it would normally be with the Game Pass discount. But I'm the key thing with Avowed, I'm not the biggest into like fantasy RPGs. Like this will be when Elder Scrolls come out. This will be one of my first times actually going into that space kind of thing. But I loved how Obsidian did Outer Worlds. Looking forward to Outer Worlds 2. Love their storytelling approach on things. Also had a really good time with, I think it was it the Stick of Truth or was it the other one? The what do you call it? South Park game that Obsidian worked on way back.
Oh, the butthole one, yeah.
Oh yeah, true but whole or something like that, or fractured but whole.
The fractured butthole.
But I love Obsidian's approach on storytelling and this choices or decisions you get to make, which a lot of games that give you choices don't always have like a consequence, and they seem to have a consequence, or you can literally, what do you call it? Like burn bridges with some of the characters or seriously hinder your outcome, but it allows you or gives you the freedom to make those choices either way you want. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Every time they show, whether it's screenshots or more video, it's looking more and more polished. I'm loving the biomes that they've shown for this game, all the different landscapes that you'll be able to go through. The fact that it rewards you for exploring. There'll be shortcuts and hidden caves or hidden dungeons that you'll come across on occasion. And that all depends on some of the decision making you make or who you have in your party as far as your companions and things like that. So there's just so much to this game that I'm looking forward to. Never really played Pillars of Eternity, but having it where there's already a lore built with the story behind it, as opposed to this being like a brand new IP per se. I mean, it is technically, but it's based in that same realm for Pillars of Eternity. I'm curious to see how this pans out, because a lot of people that have played Pillars of Eternity always make mention of how dark of a it's not lighthearted basically, although Avowed looks to be a little bit more lighthearted, but it does have, at least from what the devs say, some areas that are not going to be as lighthearted as far as your choices, whether you let somebody live or die or what have you. And I think there is one of those things where that they've shown a little bit of like the path as far as like if you choose to believe somebody as far as that they kill these other individuals, or do you then take them out because they have a bounty on their head or something to that effect. I'm curious to see how all of that plays out. But Obsidian have been great. They're like what I would say the equivalent of Insomniac for Sony. Not saying that they've completely carried the series launch, but they've probably been the most productive as far as having the most amount of games from start to finish from acquisition. And each and every time they deliver a fantastic experience. I know some people didn't necessarily care for Pendament, but it is a fun historical based type story that I think if it had more of a RPG-esque type look to it or third-person perspective, it would probably have done a heck of a lot better. But it was still a good story and still a good journey as far as going through that game. But Avowed, I think, is going to be like one of their shining moments, because little do people know there was a Stormlands game that was pitched for early Xbox One, where some of the similar things that you see in this game were there. It's just that it had more of a multiplayer and co-op element to it. So if this is more of like the singular story, somewhat like an offshoot from the Pillars of Eternity type of deal, I'm real curious to see if this is something that they continue as well, like they did with Outer Worlds, where we have Outer Worlds 2 hopefully coming from them next, unless there's some secret project Fallout related possibly in between.
You never know.
But Obsidian have been great, and they're the ones that are most known for like the best Fallout, as far as Fallout New Vegas and things along those lines. So yeah, this game I think is going to have a special place in the series console, I wouldn't say history, but as far as the lineup and stuff. And I think people will be looking back and still playing this and doing much like they do with like Elder Scrolls and Skyrim with mods and things along those lines. So I'm really looking forward to this.